Hello, I'm Dohren, and today I'm going to read and review my poem Health Scare. Health Scare. I'm dying, and so are you. I need to move this from a knowing to a feeling, from my brain to my heart. Health scare, death stir, born, dead, resurrected, born again, dead again, reincarnated. You're living, you're dying, and so am I. Why is it only when a doctor with a clipboard takes me into that side room and tells me I've got just 6 months left, perhaps 9 if the treatment kicks in, that the penny will properly drop? Of course, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow, and if you live in the Forest of Dean, so could you too, as I'll be coming through on the number 22. And I'm not the best bus driver in the world, if truth be told. I've a checkered career at careering off the road. So best stay at home then, though you're more likely to meet grief there than if you're out on the street. In which case, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. Basically, just damned. Statistically speaking, if this poem has ever been published, you're reading this long after I've perished. And if it's of any sort of comfort, I was pretty shit at most things in life, and if I can do death, then you can do it too. It's not the be all and end all you think it is. Any fool can do it. Even the least amongst us will achieve it. I'll munch my heavenly popcorn as I sit and wait with you if you want me to, because I'm an old hand at this. Oh yeah, I'm an old hand at this. I went and turned a funny hue last time the Grim Reaper came a-reaping. Deader than John Cleese's Norwegian blue, not pining for the fjords, not sleeping. But I suppose I'm getting ahead of myself. At the time of writing, I'm not quite dead yet. Just dying, and so are you. I need to move this from a knowing to a feeling, from my brain to my heart. Health scare, death stir, born, dead, resurrected, reincarnated. You're living, you're dying, and so am I. Okay then, a slightly gloomy subject matter in this video, but you know, a subject we shouldn't shy away from all the same. So I wrote this poem back in February 2020 when it was becoming increasingly obvious that I was suffering from a serious illness. I'd been undergoing tests for several weeks, and it looked like it was going to be a cancer diagnosis. So for a good few weeks I was pretty convinced my time was up. I've been picking up lots of signals about death, you know, maybe because I'd attuned myself to that way of thinking, I don't know. But even so, it led to quite a few uncomfortable nights worrying about how quickly all this was going to happen. The scenario of a doctor with a clipboard taking me into a side room and telling me that I only had 6 months to live was just in my imagination. You know, at the time of writing the poem, we hadn't actually reached that point. But just a short while later, it became uncomfortably close to what actually did happen. It was a doctor with a clipboard. He took me into a room. Before I'd even sat down on the chair that he directed me towards, he just told me straight that I had a horrible cancer and it needed aggressive treatment. And so although by this time I was kind of expecting it, it was a real shock to actually hear those words. But he quickly followed up with the opinion that with prompt treatment, he thought I had an 80% chance of being cured. And you know, that sounded like sweet odds to me at that moment. You know, I guess you take that beforehand, you know. So I needed to have an operation, and all the COVID stuff was kicking off at the time, and the hospitals were resources were being diverted, so there was some doubt as to when this operation could happen, but thankfully it did. And here we are, you know, a year, more or less a year on, and I'm still here. So I'm very, very grateful to our wonderful NHS. Okay, so that's kind of the grisly background, if you like, to the poem and why it was written. But what's really interesting to me is that there hasn't really been any sea change in the way I live my life. You know, I haven't turned into one of those people who have a near-death experience that completely changes how they see life, and they suddenly start evangelizing, you know, about how everyone else should subsequently change the way they live their lives. And personally, I can't stand all that Carpe DM stuff, and people going on and on about living in the moment, you know, as if that's not what we're already doing. As far as I'm concerned, lying on the sofa eating pizza and falling asleep in front of a Netflix box set is a perfectly valid way of seizing your day. You know, you don't have to turn into some kind of adventure freak junkie just because you've realized that you're going to die one day, and neither does anyone else. You know, there are 1,000,001 ways to Carpe Diem, you know, and most of them do not involve jumping out of aeroplanes or trying to trek to the North Pole in your carpet slippers, or you know, whatever crazy challenge you've set yourself to do. And don't get me started on those morbid bucket list things. I can't stand them. What is all that about, you know? And what happens if you get to the end of your bucket list, you know, and you're feeling fine? Are you compelled to sort of drop down dead because you've done all the crazy things that you always thought you wanted to do? Just doesn't make any sense to me. They're a bit of a worrying thing. They sort of suggest to me that you're trying to avoid facing up to the inevitable. You know, and what do they have to do with trying to make the world a better place? But you know, it's whatever gets you through. It's just my opinion, and that sort of thing's not for me. Okay, enough of this horrible subject, I hear you shout. Yeah, okay, we can finish it here. I just thought, you know, I wrote this poem. It's in Wasp in My Cockpit, and I just thought it was a good idea to give you some background as to where it came from and what was happening in my life. And it's one of those things, it's turned out to be one of those things that you imagine is going to be horrendous or something that you can't handle, but you know, you're only required to do things one moment at a time, one day at a time. You don't have to face the entirety of everything in one go, and that's kind of what got me through it so far. There is a copy of Health Scare in the description box below. Please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this video, and I'll be back soon with more of my poetry. Until then, take care. Thank you.